Hey, hi, hello, hi. Hey, damn it. I got to get better at this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another fantastic, glorious, wonderful, might I say, episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends. My name is Jeff May, and you heard the title. I have cool friends, and every once in a while, I bring them on to talk about them. I'm very excited to have this cool friend on the show. I've been haranguing this gentleman every time I see him, which is surprisingly a lot, but not enough. The amazingly talented, super funny, great actor, comedian, fake podcaster, and
Yeah.
also pinball wizard in training, Dan Bakkedahl. Dan, how's it going, bud?
Oh man, Jeff. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Good man. It's good to see you, and it's good to talk to you. And thank you for having me. And it's funny that I thought about God, we got a lot in common, you and I.
We do. I
We
think that's
really
why
do. It's weird, silly. It's cool though. I like
You know
it.
what's funny too is, so for a little creative backstory for those of you that don't know, you would think that Dan and I know each other because we've worked together in some form of comedy, when in reality that has never happened. We
Yep.
actually met at a one ball pinball tournament. It was in West Hills at Ace Gogi, not the one where we have our pinball league, but there was a tournament. It was you and your friend Jim Jeffries, and I recognized both of you from Legit.
Oh wow.
I mean, I recognized Jim previously,
Sure, of course. I understand.
and I was like, "Are they filming here?" And just immediately, you and I were just like, really like, "Oh, we should probably be good friends."
Yeah, I felt, and honest to God, it had nothing to do with who you were there with or who I was there with. It honestly was like, oh, hey, good to see you. I remember you. Oh, this is Jeff. Nice to meet you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Hey, wait a minute. We're still shooting the shit. It was a bromance. It was a walk in the door bromance. It was
I
nice.
I do love when
Dreamweaver,
that.
I believe, was playing in the background.
You know what's funny too is I think a part of that has to do with the fact that we did not discuss work at all the entire
Yeah,
time.
right.
We were
Yeah.
just like two dudes that wanted to like talk about pinball and goofy stuff and everything like that.
Honestly, I assumed based on how you looked, how you carried yourself, where we were, I figured, oh, this guy's a stand up and he's here to play pinball. And just like Jim, he doesn't want to talk about his last special or anything. He wants to talk about whatever and hang out. And we already got so much in common. We're both, in comedy and doing pinball.
Yeah.
So, you know,
The thing about pinball is like I like at pinball that we all share this interest. And then it's like, so that's the base that I actually build and flourish off there. And it was really
yeah.
funny because when I meet people that have achieved success in comedy, because obviously I am a niche fan base. I love where I am, and I recognize that I'm cult. So when I meet people that are very successful in the mainstream, I never bring up what I do, because to me, it's not embarrassing like that I'm not there. It's just embarrassing the implication of talking about it. Where it's like if I'm playing Jim Jeffries in pinball, I'm not going to be like, I'm also a comedian, because I'm
Right.
guessing
Yeah.
there's a lot of dick riders that are just like, I'm a comedian. Can I open you or
Absolutely.
something? And I don't want to do that. Like, I have no interest in making that person feel some form of discomforted obligation. So I'm just like, I'm not telling this guy. We're two tall white guys playing pinball. We have enough in common without me trying to wedge
Yeah,
in.
yeah. It's funny. I had an experience last night where I went somewhere to play pinball, and one of the guys that we all know is a really great player over at our league was there, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, oh, hi, I'm Dan." Like, I don't want to talk to him about. I don't want to like bug him about how'd you do that. He had a perfect game a couple weeks ago, if you remember, and
Uh,
I just was like, "Whoa, I gotta." I mean, this is. I
a
was
perfect
waking in my
a perfect night, you mean?
a perfect night. Yeah, a perfect night at
Oh,
the league
it was
a
it
couple nights
Daniel?
ago.
It
Yeah.
must have been Daniel
Yeah, it was Daniel.
Minder. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
he's
yes,
great.
exactly. Well, I didn't know
He's
whether to say
super.
his name. I
Okay,
don't know
so
him at all outside of pinball, so I don't know if he's an attorney who's like, "Don't tell people I play pinball."
to us, when we're doing like that, those to me are like the celebrities of pinball night.
Oh,
Are
that's what I
these like
mean. I
that
was
top
I
of the
was
A
like,
division? Yeah. I
yeah.
know we're talking a little too inside baseball with
I
pinball,
know.
but
I
this is just
apologies.
such a wonderful thing that Dan and I have. And we're gonna talk about Veep and Legit and the Heat and the Daily Show. We're gonna get to that, but let
Yep.
us talk about what we want to talk about, which is the fact that you had a poor night last Thursday. And
Yeah.
you wrote in the there's a big group chat of like 72 people. It's like an app thing. And you were just like, I cannot believe that what happened on Thursday night could be classified as pinball. And I laughed so hard at the fact that you owned yourself so well in front of.
Oh, it was so embarrassing. I mean, here's the thing: in any competition, it's not just the person you're playing against. And now I finally understand that. I never really played golf or tennis or anything competitively long enough to understand that like you're not really playing them. You're playing you. And Thursday night, I was so mad at myself because I played me horribly
Yeah.
and just stupid things and lazy things and slow things that I went like, you're better than that. You know, you're better. I'm not saying you should be able to beat these guys, but you are better than this. And it keeps me, I think pinball keeps me young the way a crossword puzzle does, you
It
know?
does. No, because you're testing your reflexes, your skills, and all
Yeah.
that. It's funny too because and a lot of people ask me this because they get very confused at the concept of a pinball league. Boy, is this not what people were expecting when they saw the title.
No, no,
I don't care. I don't care. This is my
me
show.
neither.
They say like, "What do you mean you're in a league?" Like, I don't understand how that works. So I'm going to give you all a very quick description of what a pinball league does. There are roughly 72 people in Dan and I's league. Now, of there, every night you get grouped with, on average, three other players. So you are in a bank of four players for the entire night. You're with those people and you are competing against them for points. First, second, third, or fourth gets 7, 5, 3, or 1 point, respectively. All right. So, like, what Dan's saying is like you have to play yourself is because it's all like the luck of the draw. You don't know who you're playing. These are people that are supposed to be roughly in your level at a certain point, but then it's about you getting better through the process and finding where you can be at your level. I think of myself as a low level B league player who happens to be in the D league right now. I had a couple of really bad,
Yeah.
really bad outings.
Which I think just means you're about to really let some blood over the next couple of weeks.
And that, yeah, water finds its level.
Yeah,
But
of
you
course.
are, and the reason I'm going into all this is to say that you are the guy that I go to. There's a couple of people. There's you and previous guest of the show, Andrew Klokow,
Right.
who are my two. Like, hey, I'm going to play some pinball. I know life is crazy and weird, but I'm going in like 40 minutes. If you want to meet
Yeah.
me there, meet me there. And then half the time it's like, I absolutely want to meet you there. And then the other half is like, I'm working. I can't do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that we have that. I mean, that's like when people say, "What do you mean a league?" I say, like any other league, your dad's bowling league. That it's the exact same thing, you
Yeah.
know. And when I say playing yourself, I mean like a boxer or a football player, a field goal kicker, or whatever. Like you're not just playing the conditions and the strengths of this team. It's can you play to the best of your ability? Can you stay focused? And it 100% works in work. You know, I've noticed that like it's improved my focus. It's here's my thing. Please don't go out and play pinball, people. Please don't, because we don't have room and it would be
it's
hard on me.
It's so addicting. It
Yeah.
is. It's one of those
Anyway,
things because I think most people's pinball history is like I used to play it when I would go to the arcades, or like
sure. Yeah.
or you know what it is actually, and especially with people my age and younger, is like my dad would take me to the arcade and he would play pinball while
Yeah.
I would do that because it's such a long. I'd play Street Fighter while my dad was
Yeah.
playing pinball, and I've got really into it. It's one of those things where like if I'm dating, I usually bring that into very early into the dating process of being like,
Yeah.
this is a thing I really like.
It's like being an intravenous drug user. You got to tell her pretty
Yeah.
quickly, like, hey, listen,
Yeah.
I slam dope. Are you
Yeah.
cool with rolling me over every now and
Yeah.
then?
My middle finger calluses are the track marks of the pinball player.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
you're
I
you're
switch
really
off. I switch off. But
you have really veiny forearms. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
well, I'm
thanks,
really
honey.
gripping the side
Thank
of
you.
that table. And you own a couple tables, right? You have
I don't anymore. I
oh, you
sold them
sold them
all.
off, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I sold them all, which is fantastic. I don't regret it. I love that I was able to. I love that my love of something was able to bring enough of it into my life that when I needed it, I had money behind it,
Yeah.
which was kind of like, shell game savings account, if you will.
It's a small investment too. Pinball
Yeah.
does, oftentimes, I mean, obviously the pandemic certainly warped the value of in-home
Yes.
entertainment, But like, yeah, like if you buy a pinball table for 5 grand and it stays in great working condition, depending on how many people like that, you can flip it for 8 to 10 grand.
Oh yeah, sure. And if you get lucky and it's one of those rare ones, but it's like anything. It's like I collect vinyl too. I'm not good at that. You have to actually know what you're doing
Oh,
to
really?
do it. And I'll find out what it is
What
eventually, but
what kind of vinyl do you collect?
like records, just
Well,
vinyl records.
thanks. Oh, not cat suits. Thank you. Is there
Well, dude, how great would it be if you were talking about cat suits?
I mean, is there a genre that you
I
specifically
mean, I listen, I love Zappa, I love heavy metal, I love blues, jazz,
yeah.
70s rock. I've got a bunch of old like 50s rock and 60s rock. Like it's
What's
mostly rock and jazz and blues.
what's the prize of your collection?
I think if there's any, well, I have the Ozzy Osbourne box set. So it's every album he ever released up until
Okay.
2020 with like a signed lithograph and all this really cool stuff in it that like I've loved Ozzy since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then my son got into him. And for my birthday in 2020, like during everyone's going, no one's going anywhere. I
Yeah.
was like, I'd love to get the Ozzy box set. And my wife was like, great, move your record player to your office. I had a extra bedroom. And so
He's like,
I
"No,
just
thanks."
yep, my son and I jammed out listening to Ozzy, and
God,
that would probably be my favorite. If I had to grab one thing
I mean,
running out of this room, it would be that.
yeah, that kind of reminds me. I remember the Christmas of my senior year, so it would have been 1998. I asked for "Who's Next" by the Who, um,
Yeah,
and my father, was born in 1960, so "Who's Next" is such a seminal album to his late teenage years.
yeah,
That I opened it, he's like, "Let's go in the other room." And he, like, dragged me into the kitchen to, like, a CD player away from the present
yeah,
area, and we
yeah.
just listened to that. And it stands to wit as one of the best memories I have with my father. So I that energy there. I don't have a ton of vinyl, but my favorite thing I have that I do have a first pressing of the Traveling Wilburys Greatest Hits Volume 1.
Oh my god,
And
I
that
have
is
that album, but mine is just
yeah.
mine's the one that someone probably bought at Walmart,
Yeah.
4 months
Oh,
after
yeah,
it
when they
came out,
re-released it, yeah. No, this
or
was
when it became huge and was
yeah.
everywhere. They would buy it in a 7-Eleven. I mean, it was so big.
God, that's like that might be one of my favorite albums of all time. And I
I
like but if people ask, I feels like cheating when you say like a Traveling Wilburys album is
Why?
because
Why
they're
does that feel like a cheat?
because they are quite literally the Beatles of super bands that,
Yes,
when you think
that's
about it, it's
true.
like, George Harrison, obviously. I mean, if you listen to that album,
Yeah, but people also I think look at it like a bunch of pop stuff that they don't really respect. And I think that they miss the point on it when you actually listen to the album beginning to end. You get an entirely different impression of those songs. So I think it's a cool deep cut choice personally, where I go like, oh man,
yeah,
that's a good
it
one.
feels like cheating because you're like, that band with, Tom Petty and Bob Dylan and Roy Orbison and George Harrison, and, like, at some point in time, you have to be like, I get it. I understand why this sounds like I'm lying or like
Yeah. Well, I hear it. It's like people ask me what my favorite movie is. It's Harold and Maude. It was Harold and Maude before Something About Mary came out, and Mary said it was her favorite movie, and I
yeah,
went, "Son of a."
yeah,
Now it looks like I'm stealing it from Something About Mary.
yeah. Now other people will like the thing I like
Yeah,
too,
and
so I
now
don't want to.
again they're going to come join us, and I won't be able to play the Harold and Maude pinball
Pinball
machine.
machine, yeah, they're just stealing that away from you.
Great idea.
You we have you heard about all these, like, the homebrew pinball machines? Like,
Yes, I have.
those are what those things for homebrew is like people will take a pinball machine and reskin it to match a certain theme. So, like,
Yep.
if you there's no such thing as a Harold and Maude pinball machine, but somebody's probably made one at some point in time using an old,
You
like,
you certainly could. I mean,
yeah,
you could use anything and just I would think change the you'd have to know computers and you could change the code in a way that
yeah.
puts your video on there instead of their video. There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
And you could play your music and whatever. I
All right,
mean,
everybody, let's do it. Small investment. Buy a pinball
I
machine,
know that you can
reskin it.
get any machine you want made. There's someone who does it, but they're like $500,000 to get a one off of whatever you want.
Seems
But
high.
unless the theme is yourself and you're going to get buried in it.
Yeah, I mean, even then, $500,000 for a coffin?
But everyone has to play it while you're in it.
Okay. All
We can
right.
just keep adding stuff to make it worth
Honestly,
$500,000.
yeah,
I'm
that would
sorry, you
be
guys.
it
It's going to
seems
be on a blimp
it seems like Gene Simmons has really blown it by having a pinball machine and a
and
coffin
a
when he could
coffin.
have
Yeah.
merged the 2. Dan, you are one hell of an accomplished actor. I in researching, it's so funny because I would say one of the things that you are most known for is something that has always been on my "I'll get to it" radar, which is Veep,
Oh, yes.
um, in which you play, Congressman Roger Furlong. So, I booked you and I was like, "All right, I guess I should watch Veep." And then I looked at what I had going, I'm like, "I guess I should call up some YouTube highlights real quick." The vibe of Veep is that, there's a lot of, like, very hilariously cruel insults.
Yes.
It seems to be that yours tend to be fan favorites across the board.
Yeah, well, I think part of that, Jeff, is because they were writer favorites. Like the writers knew this guy that's not going to be there all the time. We can put all the worst in his mouth
Mhm.
because we don't have to. Everybody else had some quality that made us go like, let's see where Kent, you know,
Yeah.
finds himself this week, or how deep Gary gets this week into the bag, or whatever. And you cared about some element of them, but Furlong was so unlikable from the get-go that the only thing you could like from him was that foul, foul talk. So I think the writers enjoyed being able to put all the worst stuff into his mouth and just letting it fly.
It is funny, and, like, in my research and obviously, folks, I can repeat what everybody has told me, which is like, "Watch Veep." Like, so many award victories for Veep. Like, it is considered a seminal classic in the world of HBO comedies. It is, again, something I wish I had more time to absorb in my history, but in just watching those highlights, I was like, "God, it's I really do this." That's a sign that I need to watch the show.
Well, I think I don't know how big a Seinfeld fan are you? Because for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
it's a thing where it's an opportunity to see Julia Louis Dreyfus doing something that really only she can do. You know, she's the only one to that point. Now, a lot of people could do it, but she's the Eddie Van Halen of this style of comedy, and she is so brilliant in it. To watch her character change through the years, as despicable as she starts out and as despicable as she ends up being, it's just a fantastic journey to watch one of the greatest actors of our generation, certainly, doing the thing they're meant to be doing. You know, if the rest of it could hang, she is worth it alone.
It's wild to me how unfathomably ageless she is.
Yeah.
I know that that's not like a thing that, you're really supposed to be like, "Oh, this ageless woman,"
It's
or
okay. She's
whatever.
not a human being, so
Yeah,
that's what
exactly,
it
right?
is.
But,
She's
like,
from a different planet.
to see her look exactly the same as she did in, like, 1999 is so wild to me, and I understand that it's like, it's Hollywood, oh, makeup and this and that and all that, but it's still not enough that that is it, where I
Yeah,
sometimes
no.
it's like, no, that's a circus freak of a genetic skin existence to have somebody
Yep.
look that incredible for that long. That character that you have, like, just some of the most undeniably unhinged things that you've said, and then the follow-up to that being, like, the sort of fall of the character, as because I looked into that, is, like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
such a beautiful irony that I really do enjoy. Now, the process for which to get Veep, and in general, because I do think a lot of people are curious as to, like, how one finds themselves in such an ensemble cast like this on such
Yeah.
a prolific show,
So
like,
like getting cast
yeah,
in
like,
something like that, you mean?
what
Yeah.
is that? Is it like somebody knew you and they were like, "I got the guy for this,"
Yes.
or was
Yeah.
this
It
like
it
a
worked out. It worked out really well in that way. It
Oh,
was
really?
the creator of the show, Armando Iannucci, is a British runner and brilliant guy, had cast me before. And then when this came out, was like, hey, we're going to find a spot for you. Long story short, at the very end of the first season, I get a call that you've got an offer for Veep. And I was like, oh my God, I thought they were done by now. Like it was so long. And it turned out it was that character, which I hadn't even read yet, and I read it on the plane on the way to Baltimore. And the part of me thought, oh my God, I can't do this. I got to go home. I can't do this. This is too much. This is too big a role. This is too big an opportunity. This is too much pressure. This cast is too amazing. Like I knew obviously I knew who Julia was. I knew who Tony Hale
Oh,
was.
yeah.
I knew Matt Walsh. But, for the most part, this is a group of people that I'm going, I don't belong in this group. I can't play with this group. But luckily, they did a rehearsal process when I got there. And it kind of puts you right in and you sink or swim on day one.
It is funny that you had that trepidation because I think that that sort of I think a lot of us have this sort of imposter syndrome. I think that people who appear confident on camera or into a microphone, I think that there's an intimidation that people that are laymen might have where they're like, "Well, I have imposter syndrome, but you're clearly so confident." And it's such a human thing to address. Like even we at, being professionals, paying our bills by doing this, and yet you're still called up to something and you're like, "Well, I'm not at this level." Which is just
Yeah.
it is wild to me, but I think it is very reassuring to everybody out there that, like, you're so much better than you realize you are. Like,
Well, thank God. I mean, if I knew how good I was, maybe I'd be a dick, or maybe, because there are a lot of people who do know how good they are, and at any level, right? And they can be ass, you know, and it's a very fine line between, man, I'm having a hard time in this business. Yeah, because you don't belong in it because you're not talented enough. And man, I'm having a hard time in this business. Yeah, that's the business. It's very hard to see the difference between that. And I don't know that we as individuals in the business can ever be the ones to determine which it is. So I always have to operate under the assumption that it's just not up to me. This just isn't for me right now.
yeah.
So when something like that fell in my lap, which literally, I mean, I had done tons of work, I had done good work on things, but ultimately it was a luck shot that this guy said, who'd be good for that? Dan. No, no, I worked with him before. He'll be good.
I mean, I'm gonna push back a little bit on that,
Uh-huh.
just a tiny bit, because I do believe that there is a lot of luck involved in this, but I've also have sort of cycled back, and this is something that was taught to me, by somebody that I'm not gonna name drop because that would be really tacky, but luck
Evander Holyfield.
wouldn't that be nice? The idea of luck is colored by the fact that we don't like to acknowledge that we have put ourselves in a position to receive some kind of, and I don't want to say blessing because that sounds religious, but like good
Yeah.
fortune, where it's like, I'm so lucky I got this. Like when I got the game show, right? When I got
Yep.
the Netflix game show and I happened to do very well. And I'm like, man, just the luck that went through. And then that thing came back in my head. It's like, no, 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 no. You've spent your whole life building this information. You've made yourself as affable as possible. You moved to a location in which people would be more willing to find you to do this. You've met the right person who desperately wants to get you onto the show. So, like, yeah, there's luck in a very broad,
Yeah.
generic sense. But when you do boil it down, there's like, oh, it's not in the fates for me to get a certain role. I understand that, but getting a certain role,
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's there's more to it than just, oh, I happen to be lucky. It was like a person who's talented saw your talent, was running the show, and said, I have a person with the exact
Yeah.
talent to do this.
Yeah.
And
And here's where, like, I want to say this is where thankfully he had the ability to see that, because I've been put in things where I went, oh, wait, I'm not right for this. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. I got to do, and I'm right. I'm not right
yeah.
for it. When I got the Daily Show, it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't what I did. It wasn't who I was. I was not politically minded. I wasn't looking for satire of the news. I was looking for social satire is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to do SNL, Mad TV, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason, the fates had it in mind that I should go to the Daily Show and get tortured for 2 years, not fitting in, not feeling like I fit in, and being told by the boss, you don't fit in. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, which, I mean, look, it's show business. I've had the same thing said by other people and I hold no grudge, but it's so crazy, man, that like I've heard this, what you're saying, attributed to two different people, Jim Jeffries and Peter Dinklage, that they they both said, no, luck's got nothing to do with it. I had to be good in the first place. And then fortune had to come my way.
Yeah.
And I thought, you guys can get away with that. I can't say that out loud, but I do agree with you. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
But it is so funny that we have to say, Oh, not I mean, yeah, sure you, but not me. And the
Yeah.
reality is, yeah, you too. Like all of literally all of us.
Well, I
And
have to, otherwise I can't
yeah. But
go
it's
to the
also
next
like
appointment.
and I'll put it this way, if you are working a 9 to 5 job with benefits and insurance and, like, all that too, like, I'm jealous of that. Like,
Yeah.
there are forms of, like, we say the luck, but it's like, oh, you put yourself in a position where you could be a custodian at a local high school, making good money, supporting your family, get like, that kinda too. Like,
Yep.
I think that, and obviously, like, if we own a lot of our negative stuff a lot too, right? You're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, like, I up."
Oh,
I
yeah, I have to, yeah,
you know,
otherwise I'm
but
screwed.
then when we get the benefit, we're like, "Well, that's, I was just a lucky guy at the right time."
Well, and I've got a lot of friends who say neither of those are true. The truth is somewhere in the middle, and it's just kinda like you stay in the middle
Yeah.
and watch what comes, like, don't go pushing too hard in one way or another. Now, that doesn't mean, like, don't follow a dream or don't, try for a thing, but it's like an audition has to be. I heard, someone talk about years ago, like, the second I'm done with an audition, I'm looking for a trash can. Literally put this audition away, like put it in a trash can, right? And walk away and try to forget the appointment, forget the name of the thing, who was attached, all of it, because that was the job right there. Like,
Yeah.
I would do the set and all that kind of stuff for free, really. But to having to come down here and do this thing and get all nervous and then giggle at your jokes and you giggle at my jokes is hard for me, but it is a thing where it's like I have to do that and then go, that's all that I am in control of.
Yeah.
I control nothing other than what I just did in the room, and now that's over.
And
And that's a hard thing to do.
yeah, and you establish that presence of, like, I've had scenarios where, like, people were like, "Look, you weren't right for this, but we know you're right for another thing." And I've
I
heard
have,
so many stories like that too, which I'm
yeah.
assuming has anything like that ever happened to you?
I was just going to say I have a great story about that. Again, I'll stick with the Jim Jeffries theme because I have two stories that are very
Yeah, go for
good
it.
for this. But like with Jim, the first time I auditioned for Legit, I went down to the casting director, parked, knew that my meter was going to expire. I was going to get a ticket. There was no way we are going to be out of there in time. It was a packed room, et cetera, et cetera. I go in. Jim looks up and goes, "All right." Looks back down at the piece of paper, and I was told we were going to improvise and play in this audition.
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh no." So I deliver my line, "Jim, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Nothing, mate. Come on, we got to go see Billy." Right? Just keeps his eyes down, doesn't look at me. And I'm like, "The hell's going on?" Like, I finished the audition. "Hey, thanks a lot, mate. That was great." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." I go out. I do, in fact, have a parking ticket.
Of course.
I get in the car. I'm on my way home. This mother agents are,
$70 audition,
yeah. How
motherfucker.
did it go? How did it go? It was horrible. He didn't, "Oh, no, that's too bad because you did get a call back." And I'm like, "I did?" And they're like, "Yeah." So I go in for the callback, and now he's gregarious and, "Hey, how's it going?" and everything. And I go like, "Hey, can I ask a question? What was up with saying we are gonna do this?" And he goes, "Oh, well, some of the guys were put off by the improv. And so I decided that from then on, I was just gonna stick to the script and not mess with anybody." And I was like, "Damn," because I was set, ready, let's go to, improvise. And he went, "Well, we did," and we wound up doing it in the callback, and I got the job, and we're still good friends to this day, right? It's who knows, right? I've also watched things happen where I watched two people have a conversation on a set where one said, "Hey, how did the casting go on that other part?" And the guy said, "It was good. It was good. I'm sorry you didn't get it." And he goes, "That's okay. I'm here now." And he goes, "Yeah, great." And he goes, "Well, how did it go with the guy that you did hire?" And he goes, "Oh, he was terrible, but he was perfect for the role." And that was
Yeah.
the end of the story.
I'd
Like,
also I would add too, the thing with Jim and that story is like the idea of, like, if you have people that are equal talented and one person is affable and willing to play and, like,
yeah,
being like and also being like, "What the was that about?" Like,
yeah,
it must be very refreshing, I think, because, like, I think we're not necessarily the showbiz types that you think of when you think of,
no,
like, obviously you more than me.
and nor is Jim.
Yes, exactly. Like, it's a lot of very, like, kinda like dudes that happen to play make
Yeah,
believe and make jokes, right? So,
yeah,
like, to see somebody not be up their own ass about something and to just be like a regular person,
Yeah.
And again, that ties back to our friendship, where it's like there's no intimidation by the resume. It's just, oh, we're a couple of dudes
Yeah.
thing that we like together. Yeah. Like that was, I don't know. I think that really probably helped you a lot in obviously your talent, but also just your personality.
No, thanks,
I
man.
mean,
I try to remember that, like, I know a lot of guys that were more talented than I was in Chicago,
yeah.
and we all auditioned for the Daily Show, and I got it. And I thought, well, that's all the proof I need that this thing doesn't make any sense. And that was
Well,
the first job I ever really booked, the big, like, paying job.
The Daily Show is fascinating to me in that Chicago really was a feeder city for
Yeah.
that show. I mean, when you look at like, the early pundits that they had on there, and
Yeah, Carell and
Carell's and
Colbert
Colbert's
and
and all these
Nancy
Chicago,
Walls and
and yeah, and you're a Second City
yeah.
an alum and teacher, right? Or is that IO?
I did teach at IO and at Second City for a while. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was ever right for me. There's a guy named Mike O'Brien who's a great stand-up and a comic and a writer, worked at SNL. And anyway, in Chicago, he taught and he was a great teacher and he had like a syllabus. And I said, "Can I borrow your syllabus for teaching?" And he's like, "Sure." And so anytime that I ever had any success teaching, it was doing it his way. And even then I didn't find joy in the fact that it worked because it just wasn't right for me. It didn't feel teaching
Yeah,
didn't
you don't
feel
like
right.
helping other people. That's
No,
awful.
here's the problem. It's inconvenient.
Sure, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it makes you feel bad when other people might do better than you,
Sure. I mean,
which
I'd
you don't
rather
want that.
find a way to put a boot on their neck would be better.
Yeah, yeah. If you can crush the competition before they become the competition, honestly, you should have just taught wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
By
I
helping them
should have
get
just
better,
been
you're
like,
taking food out of your
first
family's
rule
mouths.
improv is shh, be quiet, sit down,
It'd be so funny if you just
say
drilled
anything.
this toughest looking guy right in the face.
All right,
Prison
who
rules,
else wants to
bitch.
f around? I'm the of this walk. You sons of I'm leaving.
You
Lesson
think
one finished.
you
See you
think
next
you
week.
you think you're funny. Oh man, that would be fun. Like prison rules improv would be so.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Oh man, there's a
Great
sketch
idea.
right there for you.
That
Like an improv class, but it's scared straight. Just somebody just screaming, but comedy be like, "You in this comedy club? You're gonna have somebody grab your pocket."
somebody's gonna pull an iPhone out of a pocket that doesn't exist and hold it up, and there's no phone. What are
Yeah.
you gonna do?
You like whoopee cushions, son? You like whoopee cushions? I'm an
I
OG.
scared
Yeah,
straight worked on me. I
scared.
definitely watched Scared Straight and went, uh-oh, that's I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, to be fair, yeah, I was a big rule. I'm a rules follower,
Yeah.
except for a couple things. But I generally follow. I've always been like, I'm going to stick to the rules and do things the way that won't have me killed. That was a
Yeah.
standard thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Real
I
quick,
was pretty careless, but go ahead.
yeah, that's fair enough. One of the things we do here is on patreon.com/Jeff May. If you give me a very small amount of money every month, I will say your name on every episode of Jeff Has Cool Friends, as well as on shows like Nerd and things like that. You can get baseball cards in the mail. I do lots of weird on here. Patreon.com/Jeff May. And one of the things we do is we do producers, and I give a big shout out and thank you to each and every one of them. So I am going to give a big shout out to my man Wireless. Let's shout out to producer Al Smith, the Oatmeal Savage. Do you like oatmeal?
Me?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I like oatmeal.
Do you like it like classic, or do you put in it, or what do you
I
do?
put some in it.
What do you?
Yeah, I'll be putting some in there. I'll be putting some water and
Oh,
some
oh, so
I
you're
do
not like
like
a
it with almond
horse?
milk. Yeah, I like exactly. I don't eat it like a horse. I like
You're like I
what,
put
but I like
sugar
to add.
cubes and an entire apple in it.
I like almonds
Yeah.
and dried fruit. I'm not into like the cinnamon part of it. I like the more, like nutty, fruity action.
I remember finding out that the prepackaged oatmeal, the Quaker Oats in the thing, finding out that that was basically like oat candy was such a bummer to me because I loved it
Yeah,
so much. And they're like, this is one of the most unhealthy things you can have.
yeah.
I do like a good overnight oat. I like honey with it.
Whoa, yeah. I see. Yeah,
Honey and blueberries. That's a good mix.
yeah. Honey's good. Honey's good.
Watch me use these prehensile nipples to pick up pennies off the floor. I've never said this out loud to this producer, but I feel like you can have a better use of your nipple prehensile abilities than to pick up pennies. Like that's just you're losing money picking up pennies with that. I don't know.
I
Check
think
out
if
this
you were
one.
in Thailand, you'd be making millions
Oh yeah, I mean you're picking up pennies to make dollars, right? That's really it.
down at
Yeah.
Pat Pong. Yeah.
Shout out to check out this month's Nerd with Dre and Jeff, which is going to drop this week or last week if you're listening to this on the free feed. We're covering Double Dragon, the movie based off of the video game, and it is my least favorite thing we have ever covered in my life. And I hate every single ounce of that movie.
Really?
Oh my God. Have you ever seen it?
Did this come out way back when?
94, like late 90s.
Yeah, then I saw it, but it was unremarkable.
Scott
So,
Wolf marked. It's beyond unremarkable.
mm.
It's. I wish I could like Men in Black my memory away from that.
Is Scott Wolf one of the Party of Five guys?
He was. He's one of the animal
Yeah,
party of five guys. You have Wolf and
that's no
Fox.
good. That's no good then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
A lot of heavy. And the T-1000, Robert Patrick is in it, but he's got like Vanilla Ice hair.
Oh, baby.
Oh man. Alyssa Milano is in it. It's the most.
Samantha,
It's Samantha.
Angela,
Where the future?
Jonathan, Moner.
Mona. Shout out to Normal Man, Andrew McGuire, Dan Aykroyd, Norm from Cheers, George Wendt. You ever meet George Wendt?
Yeah, I know George
Do you really? Yeah.
and Bernadette. Yeah.
Wow, you know the actual Norm from Cheers. Shout out to Dan Adamski, world's humblest man, Bart Fardigan. The Tubi Terror Bunny says the strikes may be over, but egg Bob Iger anyway, cuz Mr. Billy Beck, Carson. Aldo Vargas is a couple months behind on his podcast, but he'll hear this eventually. And Aldo, we've got a new podcast for you to listen to coming up soon that we're going to talk about. Very excited about it. Shout out to that scene in Lost City where Brad Pitt dies. Shout out to the ghost of Dave Thomas. Shout out to I'm going to start calling Yoda Old Grogu just to see what happens. There it is.
Good one.
That one tickled you.
I like it.
You like that one.
I don't even get it. I like it.
Well, Baby Yoda. They call his real name is Grogu.
Oh, is it? I see. I haven't watched that far.
That's okay. Shout out to mashed potatoes are the brioche buns of side dishes. I think both of those things are kind of overrated. And
Mashed
so
potatoes.
people
Come on,
love
man.
talking about that.
What's the matter with you? Mashed potatoes?
Overrated. I'm not saying bad. I'm saying, man, people go wild over mashed potatoes.
You could eat nothing but mashed potatoes and live forever.
Are you sure about that?
Not forever, but you could live years. It's not like it's going to kill you in a year.
I feel like it's not like it's going to kill you in a year is such a low bar to set. I am fascinated by that logic.
You got to understand, man. Some of us live day at a time.
One mashed potato at a time. It's just
That's
that
right.
look, like if I'm at Thanksgiving and you look at all the side dishes, the least impressive one to me is mashed potatoes.
Well,
I think stuffing is a better. I prefer stuffing.
Wow.
It's better
Man,
seasoned.
I think if I looked at that table, the first thing I would want is the mashed potatoes ahead of everything else on that table. Yeah.
To me, that feels
But
like the filling.
That's how people, that's different. Like some people are salty, some people are sweet.
What are you?
Some people
salty?
are mashed.
Are you salty or are you sweet?
I'm sweet. I'm super sweet.
Me too. What's your
Dude, chocolate.
Sweet?
Any kind of chocolate. There's no
Dark milk or white?
Let's go. I don't discriminate. If they're all there, I'll go milk. And if it's not the kind I like, I'll go dark. And if it's not the kind I like, I'll go white. But I'll eventually eat that white. Not gonna wait.
I won't do white chocolate. That to me, white chocolate to me is one of those things. And there's no reason for me to have that as a red flag. But if somebody's like, oh, I love white chocolate, it's not a red flag to me, but it is definitely like a like really?
Yeah, if white chocolate is like their thing, like, oh man, no, there's nothing better in the world than white chocolate. I kind of go like, what the hell? Have you ever tried coffee?
It's going to show up in the comments. I'll add, I hate coffee. So
do you really?
Oh, I don't drink it.
That's unfortunate.
Really gross to me. Yeah, it is kind of because my version of coffee is I have to pop a 5-hour energy.
Yeah,
which I call poison.
Yes, which it is.
I do call it poison out loud.
So is caffeine, so is coffee. But I do think that like the ritual of coffee, much like in England and most of the world, I guess, really, tea it's so ritualistic. And for me, coffee is so ritualistic. I only have one. I have it in the morning. It's not like I have to just, hold myself to one, but I have one and then I don't think about coffee again all day, but I got to have the one, and the ritual of it is part of it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm actually weird in that I'm like tea in the afternoon. I love like high tea, I guess, is
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say
without the high,
like the British.
yeah, I'm not eating watercress sandwiches and like that. I'm just, I have a lot of tea. My mom sends me honey. Because my mom has bees. Because
Oh, I'm
everyone
sorry,
needs a
dude.
hobby. Everyone needs a hobby.
We just got some bad news. What? My mom's got bees.
She came down with a bad case of the bees, man.
Oh, dude, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, queen even. It's really hard. It's really
No
hard.
kidding. So where are the bees?
Massachusetts.
So Massachusetts
Yeah.
honey, Massachusetts.
Classic, yeah, Massachusetts flower honey. She has a very she's a florist as well, so, like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not
well that
clover
helps.
honey either, it's, like, floral honey, and I'll never forget and I laugh about this all the time because my mom doesn't necessarily have a big Massachusetts accent, but sometimes it'll come out, and she sent me a batch, and I called her to thank her for it, and she goes, "Ah, well, those little bastards got into my hot peppers, so you better be careful, this has a kick." It was like, "This batch has a kick, those little got into my hot peppers.
Yeah,
So now this batch has a kick." And I was like, just everything I wanted out of the honey, out of
yeah, yeah. No
mom
kidding.
saying that, just the whole thing. Oh, I have a couple more. Of course, thank you to the enchanted wandering unpierced left nipple cider served at room temperature. It's like 10% nipple talk in the producer section, by the way. And finally, call me Sean or whatever. And if you again want me to say your name and even have me and my guests discuss it, head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May, JEFFMAY for that and more, including all those cards I open. They got to go somewhere and people can get them in the mail. That's fun. We have fun with that. Speaking of Massachusetts, you were in the heat.
Yes, we shot that in Boston.
You sure did.
We shot a lot of it at the old Boston Globe, and it was empty. And it was a little sad to be like, wait a minute, this is like an institution that is gone. But it was also really kind of cool to be wandering around there. And there was print dust on everything, like ink dust on everything
Really?
on the
Yeah.
ground floor. Yeah.
And you played a fascinating character. You played an albino FBI agent?
Yeah, and I'm a DEA agent. I'm not
DEA
sure
agent.
that's a role I could do anymore. You know what I mean? Like if I got a
Fair.
call and they said, "Hey, can you do this?" I'd be like, "I don't think I could do that." Like I don't know. I think that you should hire an albino actor. Which look, it was a great role, man. I mean, I got that. They told me Paul Feig was the director on it. He told me basically, I saw you in Veep, and I went, "That's the guy for this."
Yeah.
I
You're
was
really
also,
great in that.
oh, thank you. Well,
And
it
you know
was
what's
the character
funny?
was great.
I watched that movie before I knew you.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, I was like, as I was going through researching like your IMDb stuff, and I was like, wait, the Heat, like, who was he in the Heat? And I'm like researching and pulled up some scenes and was like, oh, like, oh,
Yeah.
he was like my favorite character in Heat. It was
Yeah.
just so different, so exciting
The
to
one
see that.
unfortunate thing about it is that it's like the only reason he was albino was for the one joke of you look like a murderer because you're an albino. I think you're the bad guy because you're an albino. Like that joke over and over again was the only reason he was an albino. And
Yeah.
so, you know, it's unfortunate that it is a really good role, but I wonder how time will change the perspective of a film like that, or maybe they won't. I don't know, but
It's what's interesting to me. Cause like, so I know obviously we're not doing video, but you did say that with like kind of a smile, like who knows what's going to happen with this, which I think is a really interesting thing to address, which is
yeah,
like sometimes problematic things or potentially problematic things happen in the name of comedy more often than anything else,
hell
right?
yeah.
And so like I do wonder about something like that where you're like obviously at the time you're like, yeah, this is a bit and I get it and I understand and I also like working, but to view it in like I wonder how this is going to age, like I like that very kind of like, hey, whatever happens happens, like it was what it was.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
that
I mean, I think that comes from like having a heart, having empathy for anybody who doesn't look exactly like this. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out what might it be like to be in someone else's shoes, right? Elvis sang about it. And to in the moment, no, it didn't dawn on me that like, oh, maybe this would be offensive. It seemed like they were being true to it. They were very honest with it. The makeup is ridiculously good. A guy named Vincent Skiki did 2.5 hours of airbrush on
oh
me every
wow.
day that I worked. and then they did another hour of wig on me. It was crazy. So, but all that aside, I look at it and I go, like, if someone said like that movie needs to be canceled, in which I'd be like, sure, I get it. Don't burn the book. You can shelve it and say,
Yeah.
this is really hot topic, not good. But list by the same token, and I don't know, I don't want to compare the heat to Uncle Tom's Cabin, but I
I do.
also think that like there are places where they want to ban Uncle Tom's Cabin, and you go, no, this is historical.
Yeah,
This is historical, and yes, this movie is not historical. So maybe the
I think
parallel
Huck
doesn't
Finn is a good
hold up.
it might be a more accurate
Yeah,
representation of like the
sure,
like
yeah,
something is of its time and it is in of its own way woke for what it's trying to do and say. And
yeah,
obviously, like again, they'll be like, you look weird. And your character not a villain. Like kind of
yeah.
thing. Like that
Yeah,
idea.
spoiler alert, not the villain, which I thought was the smart choice.
Well, sure.
And then have them be like, "Oh no. Oh, it
Yeah.
wasn't him. Oh, I feel bad." Like,
Yeah.
which is great. All that could have been done for that one joke with an actor with albinism that doesn't mind the joke. You know what I mean? Like I look at it like Jim did in Legit. His friend Brad Williams is a dwarf,
Mhm.
and he did a couple episodes, and he would always be the joke for being small.
Mhm.
And it was always in good fun, and it was done with love. And I don't know how that ages,
Well,
but I
Brad
know that
Williams
Brad was,
famously,
yeah. I mean,
he like
yes,
owns it and it's
absolutely,
part of the joke for him. Yeah.
absolutely. And but it's not. That's the thing today is it up to Brad Williams to decide
That's
what to do with Brad Williams? Or is it up to us to get our feelings hurt and go, hey, that offended me? And I don't know where the line is, but there's a line and we miss it a lot, you know? But I
yeah.
think that, like, that's all I'm saying about the Heat is that I think I love it. I was really proud of what I did. I thought they made it look amazing. The comedy really worked. I can't believe I got to work with those people. When I went to the rap party for the Heat, I walked up next to Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, and I said, "Hey, you guys, we did it!" And they looked over and they're like, "Oh, uh-huh,"
They didn't know who
like
you were
that.
because you weren't in
And
the
then
makeup.
we looked up and watched the clip reel, of all the bloopers and whatever. And then it came back, and they turned around, and they went, "Oh my god, oh my, it's!" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry." And they were like, they had never seen me out of the makeup, so they had
Oh,
no
yeah.
idea who I was or what I looked like. What a unique experience. Perhaps it'll age poorly. I don't know, but
It's funny, at one of my old jobs, Sandra had come in to do a tour because it was like a
yeah,
very big tour area, like the toy company, and we were told, like, "Do not engage," like, "Don't do whatever," and at first I was like, "Oh, that seems kind of like a bit much, like, we're all at work, like, whatever," and then I realized that wasn't her request. That was like the bosses being like, "Don't you dare." And
yeah.
I was just like,
And
"I'm just here to work, man."
I'll say too, like when I worked with her, she was a gigantic star. She just won an Academy Award. She's working with Melissa McCarthy, the biggest name in comedy that couple of years, right? Both brilliant, lovely, wonderful. And on the weekends, I would go out to the Feast of Saint whatever. We were staying on the North End, So I
I
went to the
was
Feast
literally
of
going to ask you where you were staying.
Saint everything.
Yeah.
Every week there's a different saint they were feasting. And so every weekend I'm out having a great time eating all
So
night,
many
hanging out.
Italian feasts
So
happen
great.
North End, yeah.
And I get back to work, and one day Sandra's like, how was the weekend? I said, good. I went to this. She went, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. And I was like, why can't you? And she's like, I can't go out in public like that.
Yeah.
And I apologized, like, oh, sorry, it didn't even dawn on me that you're that woman that I saw in those movies because you're
Because we work
just so
together, yeah.
personable, right? And that, say what you will, that sucks. That sucks. That's Elvis. That's
I
people
say
that
this a
can't go
lot.
outside their houses.
I
That sucks.
I say this a lot. A couple of examples I have used is, one, I don't think anybody wants to be Taylor Swift as much as they think they want to be Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
How much money is worth it? Honestly, like how
To
much?
just
What's it
be
worth?
dating someone and have it turn into headline news.
The biggest news story, or
Yeah.
like to literally not be able to go anywhere. I know somebody who knows somebody who's not even close. Like I know somebody who knows Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
She has to live like that. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, the complicated. That sounds like 20 years old. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then like to think about that and to think about that like sort of the prison of fame. And this came up recently because I actually was on a YouTube. I told you about this guy, Professor of Rock, the YouTube channel. Because I
Okay.
think I told
Yeah.
you, I was like, I think you'd really like this guy. He does these great sort of like documentary style stories of classic rock songs.
Okay.
He did a thing on the Cranberries and Linger and Dolores O'Riordan, right?
Right.
And I accidentally wrote an essay. I wasn't normally a commenter, but I had her in my car a couple years before she passed when I
Oh,
was an
wow.
Uber driver. And the story she told me was very specific, but she was explaining that at the height of her fame, she was essentially a prisoner of that fame,
Yeah.
where she's like, I lived in basically a mansion in the woods in Ireland, and then a car would get me, bring me to a plane would bring me to an airport, to a car, to a hotel or the venue, and then do my job, go back, and then end up back in the woods. And she's like, you have no idea how isolating it can be to have millions of people there. And I'd
Yeah.
never, like, that perspective laid on me in my 30s. Someone gave me that perspective, and I was like, I think I may have misunderstood fame.
Yeah.
You know?
I think we all do.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
I
think it's
think
fun
that,
to have the flash bulbs and the hey over here. And look, I've walked quite a few red carpets, and I my experience has been awful, and I don't want to do it ever again. But it's part of the thing. It's like part of being a part of the thing is showing up to say, hey, I'm a part of this thing and I support it, and I fully endorse this film. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like this TV show or whatever it is. I hate doing it because it's not part of the thing I would have done in the pre-industrial era. In the pre-industrial era or the pre-advertising era, I would have been traveling around in a buggy with a horse, setting up a show in the town square and moving on to the next town.
Yeah.
It's in my blood that way. And I don't just mean acting. I mean traveling, I mean leaving, I mean picking up and moving. Like it's in me. It's who I am. And so
Do you find
that to
that?
me, it's anathema to have to go in front of the thing and go, over here, over here, over
Yeah, to
here.
be, like,
And you
under the
go,
microscope in such
there's
a specific
no,
way.
there's nobody's wanting to know what I'm wearing. Nobody wants to know who's on my arm. It's not the only thing it shows is my support for the project, and I'm all for it. But it isn't what I do.
Yeah.
It's not who I am.
I mean, that is interesting. You mentioned that you have like a wanderlust a little.
Yeah, always. Oh, always. Yeah.
You're a family man. Do you find that
Yeah.
to be in conflict, or has that aspect really quelled it, or has the job itself allowed you to experience that wanderlust while still being able to
A
have
li- yeah.
a lovely family, by the way?
A little bit. Thank you. A little bit of all of it, man.
Really?
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like my wife also has it. My wife was born in Kazakhstan and then moved to Krasnodar in Russia near the Black Sea, and went to college there, and then moved to Chicago. And we met in Chicago, and then
All
we
right.
went to New York, and we came to LA, and we've moved all over the place
I was
together.
concerned you met on the internet.
No,
Where you were
no,
like,
no,
"Oh, she's great. Saw
pre-internet.
her. I just clicked the tab.
I clicked the thing.
Beautiful wife."
No, somebody else ordered her. I signed for her.
Oh,
But
perfect.
the thing is, we have that. I don't know if my kids have it. My older kid likes to go out all the time, be places, doing things all the time, and I think they're going to find that they want to do that in different towns and all over the world.
With a horse and
I
buggy selling tonics.
yes, I think so. Exactly. So you got to sell the tonic. That's how you make money.
Yeah, if you don't
The
sell the tonic, you
performance.
don't get to the next town. I
Yeah,
don't
you don't
think
get to the
people
next town.
understand that.
They might make you one dinner, but then they want you to leave.
Yeah, you
So
gotta re-up that liniment and start moving.
yeah. By the
I
way, I'm 54. I'm already 10 years past how old I should have been. So
Speaking of red carpets and promoting projects, you have actually coming out soon. You have a
yeah.
show. It's called Dinner with the Parents. Is that right?
Yes, that's
And
correct.
that's
Yeah,
on
on
Freebie.
Amazon Freebie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Tell me about Dinner with the Parents.
it's a remake of a British show. So in the fashion of great shows like The Office, you take a British show and you go, "Hey, what if we Americanize this a little bit and see what happens?" And I think it's great. It's about a family celebrating having Shabbos, Friday night dinner together. It's a Jewish family having dinner together, and it's Michaela Watkins as my wife and
Wow.
Carol Kane as my mother-in-law. And
Damn.
yeah, dude, like Carol Kane. I mean,
Come
it's
on, Carol Kane, really?
Yeah, I got to introduce you to her so then you can have her on the show and say, "This is another one of my cool friends." She is a very cool
What's
friend
I
and
mean, yeah,
a
you
legend and
think?
hilarious. Yeah, and John Glazer, who, people who know his shows like Delocated and all the stuff he did on Conan. He's a brilliant comedic actor. He's playing the annoying neighbor, you know. And then we've got these two boys, both of whom are relative newcomers in like the TV world, but Daniel Thrasher is a big YouTube channel, huge star on YouTube, does his own videos and stuff. And then Henry Hall is a brilliant musician who also happens to be Julie Louis Dreyfus's son.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
that
So
covers a
it's
lot of
it's
ground.
yeah, it's a lot. It's quite a crew, man. It's really cool.
Is there
And
did you
it's
are you do you still get geeked out about stuff like this, or are you professional enough at this point in time in
yeah,
your
they've
career?
they've
Did, like, Veep crest you past that, "I can't believe I'm here now"?
no, it's just the
Or
process itself has done that, honestly,
yeah,
where it's like things take so long that you're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we finished." And then it's months to wait until you see something and you see it without them being the people, the viewers, you see it alone. And then you see what they think of it. Everything is just takes so long. It's death by a thousand cuts,
yeah.
frankly.
But
But I'm really proud of it. I think it's really funny. It's a farce, but it's a family comedy and it's keeping in tradition with the original, which was so beautifully done. Really funny show that ran for 10 years in England.
oh, wow. Which is
Yeah.
also very rare. The British
Yes.
tend to be like,
Oh
"Alright, we've
yeah.
done our 2 seasons," or excuse me,
Yeah.
2 series,
Yeah.
and
Two
we're moving
series
on.
of 4 episodes each, and now it's done.
Dude, that to me, like, when Fleabag had come out and she was like, "And I'm done." Everyone's like, "We want more." And I'm like, "Can you let this person finish their art?" Like
Yeah.
allow that to happen. And it is funny because America is like, "The Office, how many seasons can we get out of this?"
Well, and you're right. It is like, well, obviously the answer is how much can you pay for? We can do it.
Yeah.
All we have to do is pay the price. And that's what happened with Phoebe with Fleabag was she said, "No, guys, that's it. It's a one-off." And they said, "This much." And she said, "No, it's a
Yeah.
one-off." And they said, "This much." And she went, "Wait a minute now." And they went, "This much." She went, "Oh, I'll do it."
Oh, for
You
season 2,
know,
right? Yeah, like,
yeah, for season
I mean,
2, and then season 3 was, come on, do it," and I don't think there's enough money in the world. She
no.
just said no.
I think season 2 of Fleabag might be the most perfect season of television I've ever seen.
Yeah,
It that like I can't imagine another season of a TV show that I think I was more emotionally invested in and fully enjoying over every aspect of it than that.
yeah.
That's what the rest of the show is gonna be about, is Fleabag. No,
I didn't
so
watch it in a while,
oh,
so
you
I'm gonna need
fucking
some help.
idiot. No, so Dinner with the Parents is coming out on Amazon Freebie, so definitely check that out.
April 18th, yep.
You heard it, everybody. Steal an Amazon login account and watch it on Freebie.
No, but it's freebie, so
Oh,
it's
it's
free.
Freebie.
You
Okay.
don't have to have a login account. Well,
Right.
unless you don't have any Amazon account, then yes, steal one. If you're not on Prime. Yeah.
I am currently stealing Amazon Prime, so
But you should be able to get freebie for free, V. That's the point, I
that's a
think.
fair point. That is a fair point. The last thing I want to talk about is actually on for the regular show because I didn't even realize how quickly we've burned through an hour. It's like
Yes.
insane to me. I was like,
Yeah.
have all these other questions, and which is good by the way, because patrons get bonus content, which is really fun. So we're gonna have that, and we will talk about
Wonderful.
that. If you're listening for free, head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May for early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk about a podcast that you sent me that you have just released called Mr. Johnson's Time Machine.
That's correct. Yes.
I was cackling on
Oh,
the
thanks,
first it's
man.
the first episode is the
Yeah.
one you sent me, it's like Abraham Lincoln or something.
Yeah, there's that one's kind of a potpourri of different
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Elevator pitch is you have created a audio scope that can essentially get all you can travel through time via audio
Yeah,
specific.
you can read all of time with a radio telescope that's been hooked up to an AI platform that can translate it for you.
It is so fun.
Thanks,
The
man.
character you have created in Mr. Johnson, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is has a piece of something that you're very good at, which I've noticed in your work, which is like you are really good at exasperated rage.
Yes.
Like it's not just rage. It's this like you're so over this kind of confrontation, which as a person from New England, I can only say you must have blended in so well
Yeah, I
in
did all
Boston
right.
while you were there, right?
Yeah.
I love I loved this podcast, and this
Oh,
is from a
thanks,
person
man.
who
Yeah.
rarely listens to podcasts.
No, and I
I
appreciate, I
don't
mean,
have
that's the
time.
beauty. That's how I know we're friends, because I didn't ask you to listen to it because you have a podcast.
Yeah.
I asked you to listen to it because we're friends.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, man, I think you know this too, because here you are, you're creating your own stuff again and again and again, right?
Mhm.
And there's something very you talk about that old wagon going town to town. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Is like, let me just do what I would do if I pulled into town and went, "Hey, everybody, gather around. We got a story to tell you. This guy invented an audio scope that can hear anything. What do you want to hear, little girl?" And then she tells us, and then we try to get it for her, except we kind of miss the mark most of the
It's
time.
it's pure it's if you filtered radio vaudeville
Yeah.
through a modern contextualization, it's the best way I can describe it. Folks, Mr. Johnson's Time Machine podcast. And the fun part about this, and it's something that you said, which was you have cut me off because I was about to
Yeah.
tell you the thing you
Oh,
just said to me,
sorry.
which is no, no, no. How dare you
I know,
explain
but
your project? Is that the passion behind this project and the work that you're putting in and showing off what exactly it is you do beyond just reading a script, interpreting it, and relaying that information to a camera? You can hear how much fun you're having through the acting, through the improv. And that to me, I love hearing stuff that you know somebody loves and that it isn't a paycheck, that
yeah.
it's a passion. And that to me, the energy I get from this show is absolutely that. And I love every ounce of that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I edited the entire series. I edit myself.
Really?
And I leave in, if someone breaks and starts giggling, I leave it in because I'm like, I can't leave out. Megan Grano does it twice in two different episodes. And I'm like, I can't leave out her joy. It's
It's so
part of
fun.
what makes improv great, is that the show is improvised. My co-host Joe will write a little intro, and our friend Eddie has written some ridiculous commercials for us, but the rest of it is all improvised.
Mhm.
And the actors that do all the scenes for us are improvising. And if they giggle and continue their thought, that's the take I'm keeping.
That in a way, and as I hate, obviously, we are our own people, but in a way, that reminds me very much of a good friend and guest of the show, Dana Gould's Hanging with Dr. Z, where he has a very loose idea of what it's doing, but it's
Yeah,
like Dr. Zayas doing an old, 70s talk show, like a
that's
Merc
great. Yeah,
show
yeah.
or whatever, with all these other, celebrities that are usually in comedy. And so they get to really riff back and forth off of each other. And you can see it. Like you can see, like, oh, Dr. Zayas got Tim Meadows to break or something like that. And
Right.
it is such a delight. It doesn't, not everything my enjoyment of something doesn't necessarily rely on whether or not it's the most polished thing, but if it is
Yeah,
something that I am enjoying consuming, and
absolutely.
that breaking is really fun. So, where the did you come up with this idea?
Well, Joe Canale and I are old friends from Chicago. Everybody that's appeared on the show is an improviser who came from Chicago and now lives out here, with the exception of one player who's a local guy. And Joe and I got together, started talking about, hey, maybe we can adapt a Kurt Vonnegut novel, or maybe we'll do an improvised Kurt Vonnegut, or maybe we'll try, like, we're trying to think of something in the realm of science fiction, whatever, right? Then we started developing an idea, which was like a found footage podcast,
Mhm.
and it would be audio that we improvise scenarios and then pretend that they're found, and we'll be the hosts that are listening to this found footage. And we didn't like it as much, and we pitched it to someone who said, what you need is, if you're going to improvise, you need to get a niche, like either your science or your history. And we were like, that's it, science and history, thank you very much. And that's what we did. We went and said, let's take the Kurt Vonnegut approach of like this sci-fi kind of curmudgeonly, you know, uber genius who's kind of unstable, and put him with this stoic milk toast
Yeah, the
history guy, the host of the
the
podcast.
NPR host, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, which is great.
Uh,
And that's all we did. We just start, and but we retrofit everything. So what we did was we said, we want episode 1, 2, and 3 to be little pieces from different groups of people. So we brought 3 different groups of people in on 3 different days to have them improvise a bunch of scenarios. And then we took 3 of them and put them in episode 1, 3 of them in episode 2, right?
Yeah.
And then we wrote and beat out our reactions to those audio as we edited them. So it was kind of like
Oh, great.
they would
What a
improvise
unique
it,
way of
I would
doing
edit
it.
it, and then we would comment on it after it was finished, as though we're doing like a commentary video. We're listening to it live from space,
Mhm.
you know? And so you find us like taking guesses on what's going to happen, and we're wrong, or we're right, or we're surprised. And there's a great through line of the host and the co-host too. So the show is like a show within a show within a show.
Mhm. I love the through line too. And without, obviously, I implore you all. I know that if you're listening to my podcast, you're probably not, this isn't the only podcast you're listening to. So
Probably
I,
not.
as much as I despise giving people assignments, I cannot stress to you enough how much you will like this. I know that a lot of times the stuff we listen to is like current events or it's reactive and stuff like that. I think there is a lot of room in people's listenership for this form of the art. And I think it's really, really great the relationship between the two hosts, and the exasperated antagonism
Yes.
that your wonderfully ass character brings in is such a delight. And there's a running through line in the commentary that I don't feel like ruining the joke. That kept having me like just kind of
Yeah.
like spurt a laugh out. And I am a hard laugh. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
hard to
thanks,
get a
man.
laugh out.
Yeah, I
You
get it.
watch enough comedy,
I bet.
and you kind of get deadened to it sometimes that you got me with this one bit that I just genuinely think is absolutely delightful. So
Thanks, man.
I feel very lucky that I get to see you play pinball with you in an afternoon. One of my favorite things was that time you and I were out playing pinball on like a Wednesday, early evening, late afternoon, and some Veep fan came up to you and just started telling you how much they loved you, and you were like, "We gonna play pinball? Let's play some pinball, man!" And like, and I was like, "This is exactly the kind of that I'm talking." Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love having you as a friend.
Well, thanks, man.
Like
Same here.
you are one of my coolest friends, one of my more recent acquisitions
It's
that
been like a year, maybe 2 years,
it
a
hasn't
little
been that
under.
long, but like when I say that, I mean like a fast friend, like somebody
Yeah.
that like you meet and you're like, all right, we're supposed to be friends.
Yeah.
And I really do love just hanging out and playing pinball, but I also really love consuming your work,
Thanks,
which
buddy.
not every friend. And not every friend is somebody who I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're the best comedian I've ever met." It's just like, you're a great friend, and I love that you're a great friend.
Yeah.
Maybe your comedy's not for me. With
And
you,
I love having both kinds of friends where it's like there are friends who have never seen Veep. And I'm like, thank God, this
dude,
person isn't trying to be friends with the guy from Veep. This guy trying to be friends with someone they met
it's
at pinball. You
it's
know what I mean?
embarrassing, right? Like
It's
that to
yeah.
me, I could not fathom being that
But
person.
I also don't judge it. I
No,
understand
I
that
get
like
it.
it's exciting. It's like, oh my God, how did I get so lucky as to be in the place where this famous person is? And they don't realize that, like, trust me, they're just a dude or just a chick. I mean, some of the most brilliant people I ever worked with came to work one day. What this one woman came to work and said, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Is this any good? And I was like, my God, she had won multiple Academy Awards, is highly decorated, crazy talented. The second she walked in the room, everybody's like, oh, they feel more professional and not scared, but like supported. Like, and she had doubts.
That
So
happens.
that's why I try to be like, for me, it's like I understand, like, yeah, you're gonna find out I'm just a fucking guy. If you want to play pinball, we can play some pinball, or else,
It's so what's really funny to me is when we first met, I didn't know your
which is great.
like, I
Yeah,
just wanted to play, and when I was playing Jim, I'm like, "I'm not telling him what I do. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't wanna change
yeah,
that dynamic."
yeah. He'll feel
No, I
weird.
just
You'll
wanna
feel
play.
weird.
I
Yeah,
didn't come here to I came here to play pinball and have fun with people that like to do the thing I like to do,
yep.
and that is really, really great. Now, obviously, folks, if you are listening, and you haven't seen any of the stuff we talked about, go ahead and do it. Like, check all the stuff Dan has done, and there's so much more. Legit, again, we didn't really dive too deep into that.
No, but
Legit
it's on Hulu.
on Hulu, one of the I would say the biggest there are two giant victims of FX trying to figure out what it was doing. And Legit was one of them by shifting it to FXX and
That's
not
correct.
really.
Yeah.
I think Legit should have lasted at least for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And it not lasting 5 seasons for a reason that wasn't its own fault. I think that, and I think Why the Last Man being like FX on Hulu exclusive. And you're like, just put it on the fucking TV, man.
Yeah.
Like I
Or
do
just
feel
put it on Hulu, or just put it on
right.
Hulu and make it your front page all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's hard, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like Legit, they loved it, head over heels for it. I thought it was weird. And then when I saw it, I loved it. I saw what they were doing. I saw the edits were making all the difference in the world because it made it this tender but filthy, hilarious, yet slightly sad thing about these single guys trying to find their ways, through life. And one of them being like, I don't want to be a jerk anymore,
Yeah.
and it was really cool. And Jim had a beautiful through line for the whole story.
Yeah.
Knew what the end of the series was already. And he said he really only needed 3
Oh,
seasons to
yeah.
do it, but he could stretch it if it looked like they were going to do it.
Yeah.
And, we just never got that chance.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, the neuroses of the Steve character, I think was such a delight to see in a comedy setting.
It was pretty great to get cast in something like that and go, what? I don't know if I could do this. And they went like, you're doing it all the time,
It's like, oh, we need to revisit how we view ourselves versus how the rest of the world is perceiving us.
Right. And Legit is the show that more often than not, I'm not on any social media anymore, but
Oh
more
boy,
often than
that's something
not,
I'm going to talk to you in the special.
yeah, in person and on social media when I was still on there, Legit was the show more than any other that I would get, holy shit, just watch Legit. Where was this show? When is the third, and you go, that was 10 years ago. And that's all there is. 2 seasons. That's all there is.
Yeah.
I could tell you the end of the story. I can't tell you on the air.
No,
It's not my
no.
story to tell, but it was a pretty spectacular experience.
Well, definitely check out Legit if you haven't seen it or haven't even heard of it, which obviously some people that's the way that, obviously movies like The Heat and, Veep, obviously. Definitely keep a lookout out for Dinner with the Parents on Amazon Freevee and Mr. Johnson's Time Machines podcast, Mr. Johnson's Time Machine, not
That's correct.
podcast. Check
New
it out
episode every Tuesday.
every Tuesday, right after. So you just finished listening to this. You can now go listen to that podcast.
Yeah. And ours is only like 18 to 20 minutes. So we'll be
thank
the
you
thing
for
you
that.
do while you're in the toilet.
None of this hour-long bullshit that I'm doing on here.
Nah.
But definitely check that out. Dan, is there anything that I missed in this specific part of the conversation? Anything else we want to promote while we're here?
I don't think so, buddy.
All right. Play pinball and have fun.
I think we covered it. That's it.
For those of you that are listening on the free feed, thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of your ears and listens. And hey, if you want to review and rate, it's free. It's also free and it helps. Also, review and rate Mr. Johnson's Time Machine 5 stars. Let them know. Those reviews they bring attention to us. So do that. So if you're for free, thank you. If you're on the Patreon, thank you more. Don't take it personally, freeloaders, but they give me money for this. So I like them more. Head on over to patreon.com/Jeff May if you want early access to uncensored episodes with bonus content, as well as other shows like Nerd with Dre and Jeff, early access, and Ugh Fine with Kim Crawl. You can also hear me on Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on Gamefully Unemployed, and all the stuff on the You Don't Even Like Podcasts Network with Adam Todd Brown. You can come check me out live every second Friday of every month at Blast from the Past with Mint on Card on Magnolia in Burbank, California. And that seems to be it, I think. So, Dan, say goodbye to the freeloaders.
Goodbye, freeloaders.
See you later, freeloaders. Thank you so much. Everybody else, stick around. We got more coming your way. Bye. Hey, everyone. Our artwork is created by Justin T. Brown, who can be found at Artness by Justin Brown on Instagram, as well as artnessbyjustinbrown.com. That dope music you heard is by Troy Nababon, available at Troy Nababon on Instagram as well as at troynababon.com. Nababon is spelled Nababan, and boy, does that shred. Thank you all so much for listening. See you next time.